If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Hey, it's Meredith. You're listening or watching the Afternoon Snack Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about grassroots gone wrong. Meaning, maybe you've had experience with this, maybe you have been on the receiving end of this, but something that you loved and that you felt like you were in on at the beginning changes. And that can be really hard. As a participant, as a fan, as someone who's followed along, when you feel like something's going mainstream, there can be fears come in that are related to whatever that thing is getting watered down. Maybe you feel less validated by it, or maybe you feel afraid of the changes that it represents in you. So we're going to talk today about that feeling and how it transcends art, sports, celebrities, and life online. It's a really cool episode, so we'll get into it. How are you?
Good. I'm a little tired. It's been a lot of early mornings for me.
It has.
I still get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but I don't necessarily think that's quite enough for me. So I usually get like 9 on the weekends, which helps. How are you?
Well slept.
Because you get like the last few nights you've had 2 hours more sleep than me, which I am feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. There's a time for less sleep, but not for me, not right now.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to what my body's asking for, and it's asking for 9 to 10.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Really good for you.
Thanks. Especially, it's like a pretty busy time of year, so yeah, I'm trying to sneak it in when I can.
Well, you're doing a great job. You're not super sneaky about it.
No, it's not discreet. It's when you get up and have a whole sporting activity and come back home and I'm still in bed, which is what happened this morning.
Yeah.
And I love how like sometimes you'll type me messages as if I'm gonna like be awake by the time you get back, which sometimes I am. You know, mostly about who's been fed and who has not been fed and out to pee and stuff like that. The animals, not people.
Yeah. Yeah, I got up at 5:30, went to swim at 6, finished swimming at 7:40, got home just before 8, and you were still in bed.
Mm-hmm. What's crazy too is I woke up when you got up and I was like, there's awareness of how early it is. And I'm like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and I'll just sleep probably for like another hour. And then it just ends up being 2 hours. But that's what she wanted. So that's what she got.
You got to give her what she wants.
Yeah. And for me, I can justify that because of the 14-hour day on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Like legitimate work day, followed by a few that weren't so dissimilar from that. So when I get a moment to sleep in, I'm gonna sleep in. I was talking to a friend online a couple weeks ago, is Beth Bacon, because she posted something about changing their bedding situation. And so then we had this whole conversation about bedding because we've also changed our bedding situation. And I don't know if that's just something that comes with like being an adult, but you kind of just become aware of how things can impact your sleep. And it's like, why are we making choices that negatively impact sleep quality when we can make other choices, even if they're weird? Like having 2 twin comforters.
I actually don't think that's that weird.
I don't know if it's weird. I know we went to one other place.
It's European. It's what the Europeans do.
Is it definitely?
It definitely is.
One European that does it. Is that? I don't know.
When I used to travel around Europe for skiing, it was you have your own blanket.
Were you sleeping in beds with people?
Yeah.
Oh.
We would share rooms sometimes. And then But also, if not, you still had the 2 blankets.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's great.
Yeah, so our setup, for anyone who's interested, is no flat sheet. So just like a fitted sheet on a king bed, get rid of the flat sheet, and then 2 extra long twin duvets with duvet covers.
And the kicker here is the duvets are different.
Yeah, you can choose a warmer or a cooler, more breathable duvet depending on your preference. Which, like, ironically, I chose the slightly less warm, more breathable material because I've always thought you were like a down, because like you always want the down on, and I don't like down.
I like down. The problem is down is already really warm and it's light, which I like. It's warm, but it's light. But when you put it in a duvet cover, it transforms.
Does it?
It's no longer as breathable or as light. So you've got this, like, now you're suffocating.
I don't know. I find down doesn't breathe, like, even when it's not in a duvet.
Okay, well, I can't do down in a duvet. It's too much. So I have to, the blanket you got me is too much. It might be okay for winter, but we're still figuring things out.
TBD. I got myself a wool
Yeah,
because I don't like down. My issue with down is, like, once I get hot, I stay hot.
yeah.
Like, it's such a good insulator that I can't, it like impacts my ability to regulate my body temperature. And I hate that. So I bought myself, like, it looks like a down duvet, but it's wool because I like wool.
Yeah.
And it breathes. It, like, doesn't suffocate you. But in the irony of all ironies, you have the wool one right now and I have the down one. It's been okay, but
Well, I wanted to try the wool one because I'm going to get something different. It's just a question of what.
yeah.
But I think this is a good compromise between sleeping in the same bed with the same comforter, being unhappy because you want different things, or you're getting kept awake by the other person moving around, and a sleep divorce where you move into separate beds or separate rooms, which I don't personally like. So it's amazing actually how much I don't feel you moving at all anymore. And we have a nice mattress, so that helps. But if you're moving around, because you're not pulling my side of the blanket, I don't wake up quite as much, if at all, from you, which is really nice.
I think for me, we either needed to go this direction or like a mini layers of flat bedding direction. Basically a hotel. So there's no big puffy duvet thing. It's like you have flat sheet, then like a blanket, and then maybe a thin quilt, and then like another blanket.
See, I really like layers. That's too much weight for me.
I love that.
And then you can manipulate your own layers on each side. Got it. Well, I'm glad we went this way, and I would recommend it.
Yeah, and you can make it like not ugly. You just get 2 of the same duvet covers. You can still make your bed up and it looks
There's
like
certain ways you can fold them too, which we don't do, but you could.
I don't know. You kind of like did it that one time and I'm like, I don't know. This looks weird.
I didn't fold them right.
Oh, okay.
There's other ways where you can you do like you would fold a letter to put in an envelope.
Thirds?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing that hangs over the side?
No. You can see the undersheet. The undersheet becomes part of the display.
That feels like seeing a bra strap. Or it's like when you ice a cake, but you only ice the top of the layers, so then the side's exposed.
Yeah, I mean, it's
personal preference.
It is.
I feel like our sheets are not. They're
it's
just
like a
plain.
cupcake. Our sheets are not clean. That's part of it.
Our sheets are clean.
They are, but they get dirty because the cats and the dogs.
Oh, I said not. I said plain, not clean.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we don't sleep in dirty sheets, but we do have to wash them a lot. Yeah. Okay, let's let the record show we're not that disgusting.
We're not disgusting. Our animals are.
Yeah, sometimes I struggle with that, actually. Especially when it's like Ren, who's still a baby, and like learning how to clean litter off of herself, and she gets in the bed, and you're like, is that litter?
It is.
It's like, great. Love this so much. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Sometimes like nature gets in our bed from the dogs.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's like kind of like camping.
You hate camping.
I know I do. But not because of twigs in the bed. Many other reasons.
What reasons?
Well, I think the showering situation and the in and out of tents isn't my favorite. Temperature regulation is harder. Noise. Mm-hmm. And just like having to leave my house. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah. We got invited to camp by some friends back in September.
And we were like, why don't,
so fast.
Let's just have you come stay at our house.
We live in a provincial park.
It's like camp in our house.
Camping, but with amenities.
You can bring your own sleeping bags.
Yeah. We also don't have camping gear. So
no,
like that's
for that reason.
I would camp. I like camping. But I know you wouldn't, so. And I'm not going to go camp I'm not that person who's like going to go camp by themselves. I know this person who would go camp, like go sleep outside, but like backcountry survivalist kind of, like no tent, just like would dig holes in the ground. And he was saying that, I asked him one time, like what's the most extreme conditions that he slept outside? It's like -30.
No way.
Yeah, way. And I'm like, well, how do you do that? He's like, you bury yourself in snow. I'm like, shut up. He's like, you bury yourself in snow. I'm like, you can't possibly be sleeping though, right? Like it's literally just like enduring the nighttime. I don't know. Maybe some people can. I can't imagine.
I mean, I can't even sleep if my comforter's too heavy. So I don't think I would do well under snow.
But I think you have conditioned yourself to be like such a sensitive sleeper.
Actually, no. I sleep well.
When you have perfect darkness and earplugs.
Exactly.
That's not sleeping well.
All right, let's move on.
Okay. I thought today it would be interesting to talk about like grassroots gone wrong. That's the working title of this podcast. I don't know what we'll actually title it. Because there have been a couple of things come up across different areas that like are all kind of the same, which is sort of grassroots things. So sports, organizations, athletes, artists who maybe go mainstream or become more popular, and then like the grassroots base kind of takes an issue with that.
They're ticked.
Pissed. And it's one of those things that when you start to see it more often and how it happens. And I just think it's really, especially the sporting thing, and I think we have kind of a unique vantage point in that, kind of coming from like two very different sports. Mm-hmm. Who are and have gone through the same kind of growing pains, which would be like gravel biking and CrossFit. So I don't know. I was thinking like, well, how do you define grassroots? Like that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I think people can attach like a feeling to that, but like what is the feeling? And so what I landed on with the help of Google AI and some research is it's a group or an organization or a base where ordinary people are regarded as like the main body of that organization, whatever it is. So it comes from the people, from the community, from the founders, which I think is pretty accurate.
Yeah, so that definition is kind of explaining that no one is necessarily spectacular or extraordinary.
Yeah.
To start.
You can kind of see how it worked with like CrossFit, definitely that way when it first started.
Everyone's kind of the same. They can all relate to each other.
Yeah.
There's no hierarchy.
Mm-hmm. And then even like gravel kind of started as this counterculture to, the more traditional cycling modalities. But even with artists, I think that early fan bases sort of attribute an artist's success to their loyalty. So it's like, you are who you are because of us. So they are, I think, psychologically able to sort of put themselves in the mix with that person.
Almost like a friend.
Yeah.
Like I support you because I like you and you're good at what you do. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah. And so that's, across those sort of, and athletes too. Mm-hmm. Certainly athletes that are more grassroots kind of athletes.
Yeah, it's like you can be good, you can win the CrossFit Games in 2009, but like you can't, and we can be really happy for you, but it's still not really that competitive. And you're still one of us. You're still like us. You just got first place at this little like grassroots competition that we did.
Yeah. You're like me if I had more time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, exactly.
argument.
Yeah.
So when artists, athletes, sports start to go mainstream or become more popular or quote unquote sell out, those same people that were like the initial fan base and supporters can kind of grow to dislike what they were a fan of originally, which I think sort of speaks to how people see change and can be quite threatened by it. But that's kind of like, that's the angle and where we're coming from for today's conversation.
The way I see it is it's like you're friends with someone and you support them and you invite them to your table at lunch. And then somehow they become part of the popular group in high school. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of just ditch you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you're still considered friends, but they don't really hang out with you that much. And you almost classify them as them being better than you in some way. They've moved on and you dislike that. It's almost like that.
Isn't that like the whole story arc with Mean Girls?
Yeah.
Except Katie ends up going back around to like her original friends. And it's like, I mean, that's a very complicated story. So
it really is.
We're missing some nuance.
It's a classic.
I think that's the way people kind of see it. And then the expectation is that they come back around. But more often than not, as someone grows and changes, they don't come back around. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with that? And how do you remain engaged with this thing that you love or loved or supported when you realize like that person's not coming back because they don't even know who you are?
And honestly, yeah, maybe they never did.
Yeah. I mean, they probably didn't, to be honest, like reality. Mm-hmm. So I think that's like when something goes mainstream or someone goes mainstream, it can be as simple as like perceived success. I mean, like, it's not even that people change all that much. Like sometimes it's just when someone starts having success for doing the thing that they do, people don't like that. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they do change in some way. I think it relies on the belief that the core of that thing or that person is going to be watered down as they start to like appeal to more people, or more people get involved in the sport or start doing it, or more avenues emerge for athletes to participate in this sport. It's like the core of whatever that is gets watered down. Sometimes it actually does. Sometimes it just has to change to be mainstream. And sometimes it doesn't really. It's just like the fear of it can drive people nuts.
I think on the flip side, the individual who is upset about the perceived success also feels sorry for themselves because they're seen as less important. They're one of the masses now. Mm-hmm. Whereas before they were one of a few hundred or one of one.
Do you remember the documentary that we watched with Tegan and Sarah?
Yes.
It's like with the catfishing.
Yeah.
They talked about that phenomenon a little bit in that documentary about how they are, they kind of came from that like super accessible, very in touch with their fan base, and then they got big to the point where like they literally just couldn't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And that hurt some people's feelings.
Well, people generally in business and in life don't like it when they've had something and then that something gets taken away. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about this, but if you think about gravel, you would be able to go and enter into any race and get in. But now it's
lottery system. And it's the same with artists. You used to be able to go and be front row at some small bar and be able to touch or meet your favorite artist. Whereas now they're playing at huge venues where you can barely even get tickets. Yeah.
So you do lose something, but it's not their fault for growing and getting what they want and they've worked for.
Yeah, people, they draw such weird lines in the sand when people start having success, like making money, finally reaping the benefits of like toiling. And I think that's the part that, ordinary folks may not see, is like the effort that goes behind achieving that level of success. Like it's easy to think that it's the support of the grassroots fans that got an artist there, but it's so much more than that, or an athlete or anything. And then, artists, and we're saying artists, but I mean mostly like musicians, because that's what I'm most familiar with. And I'm sure like you can probably relate to this. I think anyone who is queer can probably relate to this feeling when an artist is able to provide that, like a reflection of you in culture, like in pop culture, even if it's like fringe pop culture, seeing yourself reflected back at you by anything even close to mainstream is like super affirming. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So when someone feels affirmed in that way, potentially for the first time, it comes with a level of clinginess. You're going to cling on to whatever that feeling is, because it can be life-saving, honestly, for some people.
Especially if it's something that you are struggling with.
Yeah. So if you're clinging to a particular expression from a particular person, if that person changes in any way, it can feel very threatening. And I think that's where some of the frustration and the sadness and the anger can come from. When you stop and think about it, and if anyone who has a access to their logical brain stops and thinks about it, an artist or any public figure can't be exactly what every person needs. They can't be everything to every person while remaining true to who they are. And it's like, when you hear that, you're obviously, but it doesn't necessarily change the way that it feels. And there's some parasocial connection that can happen, especially online. And I think it's not uncommon for people to just feel more connected to celebrities and artists than they actually are.
Especially now with access. Social media. Like, I'm thinking about Brandi Carlile and some of the access that you get to her life because of social media, because of her charity, all of these things that allow you more access. The more exclusive offerings that she provides and that her organization provides.
But she's also had to walk that back a lot.
Knowing what her kids look like.
Yeah.
Seeing them on stage. Like, there's a lot that you get to see.
Yeah.
And you almost do have to check yourself. That doesn't mean that you know her.
Yeah. And I mean, you and I can relate to that. And it also comes with this pressure being on the other side of it, knowing where to draw the line, like what to share and then what to keep for yourself. And then also there's a pressure with being a public figure, whether you're, someone who has 1 million Instagram followers or what we have. You are somebody to someone, and there's pressure to show up in ways that are consistent with the people who follow you, and like consistent with your messaging, and like consistent with the way that you put yourself out there. But that doesn't mean that people who are on the internet don't have terrible days or weeks where the pressure of like continuing to show up in that way, it can feel suffocating. Speaking from experience, there is like a level of imposter syndrome that can creep in there. It's not imposter syndrome as in like I shouldn't, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's like, how am I supposed to get on the internet and pretend to be in a better mental place than I am? It's hard. That's kind of an aside, but
yeah.
There's this interview with I think I asked you yesterday if you knew who Annie DeFranco was.
I don't.
Okay.
That was the first time I've heard of her.
I was listening to this podcast, and she came up in it, and I just sort of remembered her. Like, I haven't listened to her in years. She's a Canadian-American musician, kind of like folky, punky, feminist, and she was around during a period of time where that was definitely not a popular genre of music, and you didn't see a lot of women artists like expressing themselves like that and being sort of gender fluid and being outwardly bisexual. And so she gave this interview basically about that phenomenon of just, and this was like before the internet. This is like 80s, 90s. And so maybe 90s. She gave this interview about just feeling really suffocated and almost like she felt that people wanted her to just be one way. Like it's almost like her fans wanted her to be her fans. And it's like they liked when she was sort of like butchy and sort of, counterculture and I hate men and men are pigs and any other expression was just not acceptable. And she said people want it to be simple that way. They want it to be easy. They want to see in you only what they want to be validated within themselves. And then when it's something else, it makes them feel like invalidated and insecure. So it's almost that people want celebrities and artists to become caricatures of themselves, of their most like outlandish, air quotes, traits. Mm-hmm. And she never bought into that. And you kind of have to wonder, like, did that hinder her success in some ways? I don't know. But
probably because people like to be able to put people in boxes. Mm-hmm. Think about Beyonce. Recently when she went country.
Oh, yeah. Cowboy Carter.
Oh, people hated that.
Well, it's indiscriminately. It's not even people. Like, her traditional, like her, the R&B mm-hmm. fan base hated that she went there. The country fan base was like, this music space is not for you, beside the fact that like country music is appropriated from Black people.
It's someone changing, and everyone who thinks that they know who she is and the type of music that she creates mm-hmm. doesn't like that she's now moving outside of that box that they've put her in.
Yeah.
And it similarly, like on a smaller scale, that happened with Brandi Carlile. Like mm-hmm. her new music is a little bit different. And I mean, she's not as big, but you read some of the reviews and, well, it's not like her past albums, and it's not this and it's not that.
It's not folky.
So what? It's just different.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, I don't want to sit up here on my high horse and think I've never been impacted in this way. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't like how certain things that I've loved have grown to be so much that I feel like I don't have as much access, whether that's physical access or even just the way I feel like I can relate to someone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, artists are human beings. Like, human beings grow, they change. And I think if you can say, you know what, like that wasn't my favorite album, just because I don't like that just subgenre of music as much, but I still appreciate that an artist that I care about made that album. Mm-hmm. Brittany Howard. So the lead singer and guitarist of Alabama Shakes put out 2 albums, and then she went and did her solo thing, and it was totally different, and people lost it. They couldn't handle it, and she kind of liked that. She was like, good, because that tells me who my real fans are. Mm-hmm. People who will support me doing me, even when what I'm doing doesn't necessarily align with what those people like. I think there's a lot of growth to be had there, not only in like accepting that not everything that someone you care about does is going to be up your alley, but also you may actually end up liking it. It may open your mind to experiences and new artists in a genre that you wouldn't have previously explored without this person who you're a fan of taking your hand and leading you into it. Mm-hmm. But you have to be open-minded enough to go there. And I think a lot of people just, I don't like that. Click. They sold out. Whatever.
Yeah. Remember when we got that one message, and this is one of several, where some guy was ticked off about something we had posted, and that he followed us from the beginning, and a lot of people in his CrossFit box were fans, and then we posted something, and basically everyone is ticked off that we weren't the same as we've always been. And then we've also had people ask us to do things, support what they believe in, charity or initiatives. And if we say no, which we have in the past, we don't have time for this. This isn't something that we want to spend time on. We understand it's important, but like, that's not for us right now. It's not, oh, okay, I understand. It's, well, in the past, you would have said this, or look at what you've done with this initiative. Why won't you do it for this other initiative that I think is important?
Why don't you care as much about the things I care about as the things you care about?
You're outspoken about being gay, but how come you're not doing this? You should be doing this. It's wanting us to be these people that we've been in the past, or even just generalize to other areas.
And it makes sense if you think about it, because some people, people come and go, but if someone, and this applies to us, but also anyone who's very values forward as a human being, but if that's what attracts someone to you, then that's what they're going to want from you.
Yeah.
And it tends to grow. And so the more that you do in spaces that matter to you, the more their expectations that you'll show up in ways that matter to them grow. And then when it gets to whatever that breaking point is and you don't, it's like bad news bears.
Yeah. I remember feeling uncomfortable with how fast our Instagram grew, and then how fast our business grew, and then how we were making enough money to have 2 properties. That made me feel uncomfortable, and I thought it was going to start to impact our business. Almost like as our business grew, it was going to backfire.
Wait, how so?
Well, all of these people who had been supporting us since we started, that were still paying us and working with us and part of our community, I felt concerned that because we were growing at a pace and we were building a bigger community and we were becoming less accessible, that they would think, oh, I don't need to support them anymore. And so the core of our business and the people that I genuinely cared about were just going to leave and say, this isn't for me anymore. I'm not getting what I used to get. And it was going to backfire. That was a fear of mine. And I think it took me a while to kind of understand that if most people, if they support you, they will support you.
Yeah.
And the ones that are mad about you having success are probably people that you don't necessarily want in your corner anyway.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to unpack there. I think there's a difference between having success and like people having an idea that you're successful, and shoving that success down people's throats. Like, watch us build our $6 million custom dream home while I hold my Louis Vuitton purse. Like, that's different. And that's going to lose you people. And, I don't feel any kind of way about that. But you just have to know what comes with that. Especially when you put out some problematic personal values along with that display of wealth.
Right.
And that's not what we were doing.
I know. But you get where that fear could come from. Because you see it in everyday life. And we'll talk about it. You see it. We've seen it happen in sports.
Yeah. And look, like, it may have lost us. You don't know that it didn't. Like, people who feel insecure about other people's success, you can't change that. And that success could be like, oh, you've bought a vacation property. That success could be, oh, you bought a bicycle. Like, people are going to find a reason to be ticked off no matter what you do, the scale of it. So
I think you can't be worried about what everyone thinks of you and how you make them feel all the time. I mean, I was super happy a few years ago, and I mean, I still am. I have always been. And I may have mentioned this before, but a client I basically was told that I'm making somebody else unhappy by how happy I am.
Your happiness. Yeah, someone told you that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I can't work with you anymore because I can't stand to follow you on Instagram. I can't stand to speak with you because you're happy and I'm not. And that makes me feel even worse.
Yeah.
Which like I know is not on me. That's not on me. And I feel sorry for that person in a way. But there's nothing I can do about that. And hiding how I feel about my life and being a happy, positive person and sharing that in the way I choose to share it shouldn't be impacted.
Yeah.
I can't please everybody. No one can.
But that's what I mean. Like that attitude, you didn't even buy anything. You were just like stoked on your life. That's all it took. So those people are out there, and they probably did leave, and you probably have no idea, but that's fine. It's going to happen.
And that's, again, it's not on you or on me or on you, listener.
No, like feel your feelings. They're yours. Don't put them on anyone else. Don't make them my problem.
Yeah.
Don't make them anyone else. Don't make them Brandy's problem. That's not Brandy's problem. That's your problem. You don't like the album? Go listen to a different album. There's lots of musicians out there. That's what it all comes down to. And it's like, you have the power here of like what you engage with. You have the power of your purse. If you don't want to support someone, don't.
And people do change, and people's music changes, and the roles that your favorite actors choose change. People change. That is the constant in life. It's not that people start disliking something, because I've liked something and then not liked it for whatever reason, whether it's them changing or me changing. It's the people that feel the need to tell those people, I don't like you anymore because you changed. How dare you?
Or like, yeah, I mean.
What?
Okay, so a bit of a rabbit hole. Won't be a long one though. Deb Armstrong, talked about her, skier. I think we're going to go see her in March. She has a really cool Instagram page, a really cool YouTube page. And so the other day she posted basically something, it was like a not a meme, but this politically sort of angled thing about Donald Trump calling that reporter Piggy on Air Force One. And basically like, you know, in other words, that's fucked up. And you could like, you absolutely could not possibly disagree with this post. It was literally just about human decency. And this person, guy, unsurprisingly, said basically like, follow you for ski content, not political content, yada, yada, yada. Like, don't be political, and said some other stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, you aren't allowed to have things that are important enough to you to post about it on your page.
Yeah.
Stick to skiing.
You're
Dad.
a CrossFit athlete, not a political.
Michaela Schifrin should stick to skiing.
Ugh.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
What a fuck. You know?
Yeah, one of the commentators.
What was that guy's name?
Brian Stemmel.
Awful.
I think it was, yeah. I think Michaela Schifrin had made a comment about not wanting to go somewhere to race somewhere because she didn't support the political climate.
Yeah.
And Brian, it was brought up while she was racing down the hill, and Brian Stemmel, the announcer for CBC, a Canadian broadcasting company, said that Michaela Schifrin should just stay in her lane and focus on skiing. And that really, really bothered me.
Yeah.
That really, 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 really bothered me.
Yep. I'm like, whoa, did we just take 20 years backwards?
Right?
I'm like, here's the deal with Michaela Schifrin. She's a good enough skier that she can focus on skiing and her personal values.
Yeah. And that she's doing that. She has enough of a base, and she's so good that she can do that without getting shit on by everyone.
And even if she wasn't good enough,
Right.
even if you're like middle of the pack,
Yeah.
even if you're finishing 30th or 40th on world tour, you can still make those decisions.
Yep.
You can still have things that matter to you.
You can still say stuff.
Yeah, like maybe if they weren't so focused on this, they wouldn't be 30th. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Does not matter.
And if your political beliefs, or you think that athletes shouldn't care about political beliefs, keep it to yourself.
Right, because at the end of the day, like, you're going to tell that person to pipe down, just focus on skiing, ignore what they feel. Like, they're going to have to, at some point, reconcile with the fact that they operated against their intuition and personal values.
Yeah.
Because Brian Schimmel said to focus on skiing.
Well, I mean, she just did a podcast with Alex, her fiance, and they're both incredible skiers, best in the world at what they do. And people are telling them, you need to quit skiing, you need to settle down, you need to have kids, you need to just be with Alex, telling them what they should do. And the thing is, I mean, we can create a whole podcast about these people, but I actually think that there aren't that many people who are so averse to change and who are so averse to it that they feel the need to personally message people and tell them not to, or to be the way they want them to be. Most people aren't like that, but it's still an interesting conversation.
Yeah. So let's get into sports a little bit, because that's sort of what kicked off this idea of a topic. Specifically the interesting parallels between CrossFit, the sport, and gravel cycling, the sport. So what I saw, I guess we'll start with gravel and then maybe go to CrossFit. So there was something that was posted on Facebook by this guy that basically said like gravel cycling has gone backwards 5 years in a single day. And the reason why he posted that was the Lifetime Grand Prix, which in a nutshell is sort of like the premier lineup of professional gravel cyclists that compete across the year. There's like big prize money at the end of it. It's a series of races, and you get coverage on like YouTube. And they announced the lineup for 2026, and it didn't have some like big names on it that have historically been in the lineup, like Dylan Johnson, Alex, what's his name? Meg Fisher had applied and didn't get onto it. And this guy was basically saying like, gravel has always been about storytelling, and the Lifetime Grand Prix has always been about telling athlete stories. And the fact of the matter is they're prioritizing the best racers in the sport to put on in the lineup. They're prioritizing prize money. They're prioritizing performance when like we have world tour stops that are about performance and chasing podiums. That's not what gravel is about. And how like they need to go back to including these important storytellers and focusing more on that than just like the best athletes out there, and how it just is not what gravel is. And that was the kind of the whole post, more or less. And, about like, oh, Dylan was excluded because he was injured or whatever. But like, the reality is Dylan was excluded because he didn't perform well enough last season. Regardless, like he was injured, but
so
at the end of the day.
Are they selected based on a ranking system?
No.
Or is it subjective?
Sort of. It's subjective.
Okay.
But
I mean, that's the first problem.
Well, but it's also, there's no real standardized
right.
race series. So it's hard to say who performed the best across the year, because you're looking at races that have, 30 or like super deep,
right,
comparing to races that aren't super deep.
Mm-hmm. Right. It is kind of like CrossFit in that way.
Yeah. And I think for a while, potentially forever, like a selection committee will have to be involved. Mm-hmm. But it's not so different than qualifying for Olympic sports. Mm-hmm. Like that's how it works there. It's not pure placement. It's like placement against a field.
Yeah.
It's performance on average. It's form. So, anyways, I commented back, like it was kind of blowing up, and I kind of, I said a few things back, but my take on it is there are so many more opportunities in gravel than there were 5 years ago for athletes to make money, and honestly for people to engage with it, with media. Like steps backwards. Absolutely not. And I think it's just sort of the perfect example. And I know that this person is not the only person who feels this way. And this is also not a new thing with gravel. People have had issues with gravel racing since gravel racing started to get big at all, because gravel wasn't a racing cycling endeavor. It was about adventure. It was about, going off roads, getting like disconnecting. It was basically the counter argument to racing. And that was a lot of the people you got in it were just these counterculture kind of gravel weirdos. I mean that with love.
Yeah.
But as soon as money starts to come in and competitive outlets start to emerge, it's going to become competitive. Like that's just the world that we live in. And it's really fun to race. Like there's also that. It's not I
know. I'm also like, we're human.
Yeah.
it's natural to say, well, let's see who can go the fastest. At least natural for me. Seems natural for our society also.
Yeah, like we're not doing, it's not like, oh, let's do a swimming race in the Arctic. That's miserable. This is actually really fun to do.
Yeah. And if we do a swimming race in the Arctic, we're going to race. Eventually you're going to race.
Yeah, like I keep waiting for fat biking to blow up. But I mean, I guess there are fat bike races.
There are, yeah. Way up north in the Arctic.
Yeah.
It's funny, as gravel, I was really new to gravel a couple years ago. And one of the first things that I was exposed to was Peter Stetina complaining about aero bars on gravel bikes.
Right.
And how, no, we can't change this. This isn't what gravel biking is about. I don't want the bikes to get faster. I don't want this. I want it to be the way that it always was. Because he was one of the first.
Who also, like, he's phenomenally talented at it.
Yeah.
From a racing standpoint.
It's that resistance to it evolving.
Yeah.
Which I see that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way sports are. And just there's always going to be some sort of evolution and invention and thought.
Yeah, and there should be. Like, that's how you make it better.
That's how you make everything better.
And there are lots of reasons to not have aero bars and mass start gravel events that have nothing to do with the spirit of gravel. Like, that to me is kind of a safety issue.
The fact that you don't have brakes on your aero bars is the main one.
Right. So that's, I was in cycling many years ago when there were lots of big road races in the US still. Like Amgen put some on, like Tour of California was huge. Like you had world tour riders riding road events in the US. Like that used to happen. And then it went away for a lot of reasons. And there wasn't anything. Like if you wanted to be a world tour rider, you had to go to Europe. And you still kind of have to go to Europe to do that. But gravel came in and kind of filled a needed void in the North American cycling space anyways. Like there's mountain biking world tour, there's mountain biking racing avenues, but like anything with drop bars, not really. And so I was excited to see gravel racing become a thing. And that was from kind of an outsider's vantage point who wasn't there at the start of it, who didn't know. Like I had stepped out of road biking before, kind of right at the beginning of gravel. And so I had no idea. Like that just wasn't something that I was into. People were still doing cyclocross. Like that was the closest thing to gravel when I was biking. So, but to me, I'm like, oh, that's awesome because like the US needs this. North America needs this. And I didn't realize there was all this baggage that came with it until more recently. But it's interesting because gravel is getting really, really big right now. There are so many races. But at the same time, like you kind of alluded to earlier, the big races, Unbound, the Sugars, Sea Otter, which is a gravel race now, the big ones are hard to get into.
You could count Leadville.
Yeah, you can call Leadville.
Because it's a lot of the same people are doing.
Yeah, the
Leadville,
Lifetime events.
Yeah.
But even outside of Lifetime, lottery systems are becoming more popular. It's not as easy as just signing up and getting into this race that you want to do. You especially, I mean, you have to go like volunteer to get points. It's a whole thing. And so I understand.
Especially if you're a guy.
Yeah. I understand the frustration there, and maybe there are different solutions that could be in place. But as far as like the spirit of gravel and the storytelling, I don't think it's fair to call that into question because I don't think that the responsibility for that, like the spirit of gravel, I don't think that belongs to the sport. I think that belongs to people who engage with gravel athletes and with content. And that's the thing. I'm like, you want better stories to be told. They're being told. Like, you want to keep up with Meg Fisher? Keep up with Meg Fisher. Engage with her. Like, be involved with her content because that matters to her. And that's how she makes some money as an athlete. But kind of like Annie DeFranco said, people want it simple. They want the stories that they want to hear to be told by the biggest organization in the sport. But that's not fair because you're limiting the growth opportunities for athletes. It's like, I will support you as an athlete, but only if you do the sport the way that I want you to do the sport. It's like they'll support athletes to a point. But as soon as income opportunities start to increase and it does become more commercial because, hello, where do you think money comes from in sports? they're like, no, this doesn't feel good anymore. Doesn't feel grassroots. But the problem is, like, if you support athletes, you have to support them no matter what. And sports like gravel and CrossFit, which we can talk about, there's so little money in those sports that the only opportunity that many athletes have to even express their full athletic potential is to take these income opportunities. It's the only way it can happen, because otherwise they're having to work a second job to support their like high level amateur hobby that doesn't make them enough money to survive.
You know how much an athlete wins if they win Unbound? One of the biggest gravel races of the year in North America. $5,000. $5,000.
Yep. Yeah, I mean the prize purse on the Grand Prix is higher.
Yeah.
The sponsorship,
But still not that much higher.
Yeah. I think the value for a lot of athletes, especially cyclists, and it's always kind of been this way, is the endorsements. You see like much higher value endorsements come into cycling compared to a sport like CrossFit.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd think just by nature of the sport and the equipment required, there's more money in it because of bikes.
Yeah.
But I think that the reason why, and I'm sure this has happened in other sports like skiing before my time, before a lot of people's times that are still alive, is when a sport grows, when a sport is a sport that you can relate and compete with the elite, and then that separation starts to occur. So there's only elite races, or the elite get treated differently, or yeah, I guess those are the main things. You can't relate to them. They're not one of you. They're no longer competing at your box. They're not going to class anymore.
Yeah.
They're not doing the gravel camps that you're doing. They're not leading the shakeout rides because they're focused on performance. That's what people don't like.
Yeah.
And it's selfish. These athletes, they're finally getting what they've worked for, which is to be a professional. No one's complaining about alpine skiers getting to just compete on the World Cup and getting special privileges to go ski on glaciers.
Yeah.
Because that's normalized now. That's part of it. That's the way the sport is. And fans relate to those athletes in a different way. And skiing isn't even a big sport. I mean, you take football. But these grassroots, if you're involved in it as a fan, something is, to circle back to before, something is getting taken away from you. You don't get to talk to your favorite athlete at the start line.
Yeah. And it's almost, it's like it has to get to that point, because everything that happens before that point, it's basically like, oh, they're just like a good version of me. We have more in common than we don't have in common. But it's like, as soon as an athlete starts earning a living by being an athlete, it's like, no, we're completely different people. And that's hard. That's a hard realization. And that's where I think the like gravel and CrossFit really start to come together, because that's definitely what happened to CrossFit around like 2016, 2017. It started to go that way, because before then, CrossFit Games athletes were affiliate athletes. They were doing class workouts.
I mean, even I was like, athletes don't even go to class. They don't even start in class anymore. They're 12 years old and they have their own coaches and they don't talk to anybody and they don't go to school.
Yeah.
The whole sport is shifting because they're seeing potential in it.
Yeah. And I think that's where people started to get real grumpy with CrossFit. And it took some years for that to kind of come to a head. But I mean, that's the whole thing is before that, I mean, and it's kind of interesting because I think definitely came out of the affiliate athlete model. I was definitely out of that model, sort of fringe. Like I was sort of towards the tail end, but I for most of my training years did classes. I was coaching. I managed a gym for a year. Like I was very involved in a gym community. And that's why you would go to these regional events and just see hordes of gym members there supporting that one athlete who's at regionals competing. Like people would travel hundreds and hundreds of miles to watch one athlete from their gym compete at a regional competition. That's how viscerally connected the CrossFit community was with CrossFit Games. I'm getting like goosebumps because I remember how like
know.
wicked that period of time was.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ever been anything like it, but the level of attachment that gym communities and ordinary CrossFit members had to CrossFit Games athletes and even just regional athletes was unbelievable. And then you started to see, and it kind of started with, ironically, like Rich Froning sort of kicked off this, like, okay, now he has an online program. What's Rich doing? And now Mayhem is becoming, people are moving there to train with Rich.
It was Invictus and Mayhem. I think those were the two big ones.
Yeah. And, some of that kind of came from the change in the team rules. But ultimately, I think there started to be a lot more cash injected into the sport. And so people wanted to get as good at the sport as possible, which for a sport like CrossFit means that you can't really do the CrossFit methodology anymore. You have to train like you're an actual athlete and, train more than you would be able to train in class workouts and train more intently and probably quit your job and move across the country to be around other athletes. And so the sport shifted, the tip of the spear, that is, the sport shifted away from community participation. Like now class members were no longer working out with that one member who was going to go to regionals or who might go to the game. Like
if you were lucky, that athlete was still working out in the corner.
Yeah.
But they were doing something different and better.
Yeah. And you didn't want to talk to them.
And that tore gyms apart.
It was, yeah. I mean, I saw it happen. You had to work really hard to not have it happen in gyms. But like fundamentally, there was just a disconnect that started to occur. And they lost that connection with the community. And I think, and this is something that's like kind of unique to CrossFit, I think that had real implications to the sport. I think that all of these outside investors came in, all these, like this cash came in, prize purses were going through the roof across the board. You were having sponsors pay to fly athletes to do competitions. It seemed like the opportunity to make money was like growing, getting bigger, bigger, bigger. And, in the middle of this, you have COVID that happened. You had everything with Greg Glassman that happened. And it's, I think it's impossible to know what would have happened without those two factors. But I definitely think that the shift had a negative impact on the sport. But even so now they're kind of like coming out the other end of that. And it's like, okay, so we've kind of accepted that CrossFit, the sport, is different from CrossFit, from the like community. And that took years, a couple years to get there, but we're sort of coming through that. And now there are more competitive outlets emerging. Like the World Fitness Project is new. Like that came probably out of the Lazar sort of backlash, where a lot of athletes were just fed up with the games and the lack of leadership and oversight there, and completely understandable.
And the way that they've been treated.
Yeah. So, WFP comes out, and it's not like they're the first one. Like the IF3's been around for many years, but WFP comes out as a very viable commercial opportunity for sponsors, for athletes, to professionalize the sport in a different way. Is it definitely going to work? No idea. It's definitely a different model, having like guaranteed pro contracts, having essentially tour stops. It takes the sport and it changes it a little bit. You're still doing workouts that look really similar, but the way that feels is different. But like there's guaranteed prize money, there's guaranteed contracts in it. And that's a really good thing for athletes. You cannot argue that it is not a really good thing for athletes. And some people in the CrossFit space just lost their minds over that. Like, unfortunately, the really vocal people in the CrossFit space. And that sort of, I think, shifted the way a lot of people are seeing the World Fitness Project. And to me, I'm like, there's enough to go around. And it's one of those things that could have a net positive impact on the sport of CrossFit, on athletes, like across the board. And I'm talking like CrossFit Games could benefit from the World Fitness Project if the people involved and the talking heads weren't so insecure about anything that might compete with CrossFit, which, by the way, is not actually a sport. It's a brand. It's a company. It's not gravel racing. People understand that that's not associated with a company. It's a thing that you do, like skiing, But CrossFit is inherently tied up in a privately held company, which kind of means that it can never operate as a sport. The sport has to stand up outside of that. And this was like potentially a very meaningful step towards that also provided people's favorite athletes with a way to make money, but only if that support is there.
I think CrossFit is a little different than gravel racing. They did, to a degree, call it CrossFit. They labeled something. They defined something as a term. It's like blanket is not, it's a blanket. And there are many different companies that make blankets. But that company, there isn't one company that invented the blanket. Whereas CrossFit is kind of that company. They kind of invented it.
Yeah.
So when other companies are now using that sport or that defined sport, it looks different than somebody else saying, I'll just make another gravel race and call it Unbound. It's different in that way. But I understand what you mean. It's still the sport of fitness. You could argue that. Again, sport of fitness, that's another defined part of the brand. Mm-hmm. But I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Spartan racing.
Yeah.
They sort of invented or definitely popularized obstacle course racing, but they're not the only ones who put those events on.
Right.
I mean, that sport died, so I don't know if it's like the best case study, but
yeah.
You know what I mean? I do think in order for, I mean, partially the reason why Spartan died is they couldn't let go of the brand. It was like the only way you can make money is through this one particular organization. And then when that organization folded, at least the competitive side of it, what do all the professional athletes do? They do high rocks now, but you know, it was that hugely problematic, that sport. And so I think like, if you don't want CrossFit to go down that path, maybe let's do some different things and be welcoming of other avenues, which like is only going to help affiliates. It's only going to help gym owners. It's only going to help the brand to step outside of the brand for competitive avenues, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the takeaways here, what do we want to share? What do we want people to do?
I don't know. Be curious. That's it. Like, be honest with what it is that you support and why you may feel like you don't support something, especially if those reasons feel even remotely like political in nature. And not political, I mean kind of like actually political, but certainly CrossFit draws a very like diehard fan base where any change just feels threatening. And so maybe just be open to the fact that not all change is threatening. I don't know. And engage with the people who you care about uniformly.
Yeah.
Because anything other than that, to say like, I support you, but only if you do this thing in the way that I want you to do this thing, that's like manipulation. It's not nice. If you were to do that to an actual person who you knew, it would not be like kind of manipulation. It actually just is manipulation. So be like, get that straight in your head.
I think just accepting people change, everything changes. That's inevitable. And you are under no requirement to continue to support someone if you don't like them anymore, or if they don't serve you, or you don't want to spend your time following them. That's fine, but don't be mad at them for changing. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's some grief there. Yeah. Maybe they just don't fit into your life the way they once did, but that is no one's fault. That's just the way of life.
And it might be tied to something even deeper, like you're afraid of personal change. If something has been around long enough to change, it reminds you like, shoot, I'm getting older. This period of my life that was really great and golden and so special is not there anymore.
Yeah.
I get that.
Focus on the good changes. People who have changed that are now in your life as a result of change.
Yeah.
Or the things you've gained in your life because you've adapted and shifted.
Yeah. But don't look backwards. No. You're not going that way.
Yeah.
You look where you're going. And where other people are going. But don't be mad if they don't go quite the same route that you go. People can do what they do. So, yeah. I guess that's it. The bigger lesson is acceptance.
Always.
And yeah.
And kindness.
And kindness. Curiosity.
And curiosity. 3 lessons.
Because honestly, if you don't do that, and like, I mean, you'll crush this thing that you love. Like, it's almost like, if it can't be what I want, I don't want it to be anything at all. You know, when you're a little kid and you like, your sister took something of yours, and so instead of just like letting her borrow, you like broke it.
Yeah. Been there, done that.
But that's like, you can understand why a child does that, because a child doesn't have like fully formed brains parts. You know?
It's almost the quote, and I might get this wrong. If you can't beat them, join them. And that's a little bit about it. If you can't, if you can't get them, here's the thing. You can't stop change. So you might as well, if you want to continue to support that athlete, if you really truly love them, let them change and join them in that.
Yeah, it's not, if you can't beat them, have a breakdown like a petulant child.
Right.
Don't do that. That's not a good look for an adult.
Right. And don't make them feel bad about it.
No, because like, they don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to hear that.
Yeah. Trying to stop people from changing never works.
Brandy doesn't care that you don't like the new album.
Right.
She's going to win a Grammy anyways. You know it.
The thing is there are enough people in this world that if 50% of the people don't like what you're doing, there are still a lot of people who will like what you're doing, because there's so much diversity in the world and there's so many people in the world. Heck, if 99% of people don't buy what you're doing and 1% does, that's still a lot of people. 1% is a lot. So I think even if you're someone, even in a very micro level, if we talked about like famous people or brands or sports, even on a very micro level, people change in your personal life, in your relationships.
Mm-hmm. You may be putting up boundaries that people are throwing absolute fucking fits over.
Right.
That's change. That's like this, but on a personal level.
Yeah.
So you keep making those change. You remember that when people have negative reactions to your boundaries, that's their thing. Mm-hmm. That's not for you to own.
And vice versa.
Yeah, and if you feel like you're having a negative reaction to someone's boundaries, you need to check yourself.
Right.
Because it's not about you. This feels like a good place to sign off. Yeah.
We could keep going for hours.
Oh, I thought of one more thing. I'm just kidding. Yeah, thank you for listening. I don't know if you're like, I feel like if you're from the CrossFit space, you'll get it. If you're from the gravel space, you'll get it. If you're from the art space, you'll get it. I feel like this has a lot of intersections. Maybe you're like us and you do all three, then you'll definitely get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, gosh, I do feel really, really happy that we were kind of in the golden era of CrossFit. That was a really fun time to be in the sport, I gotta say.
If you miss something, it means that you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I always hold that dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm. But I don't lament it. I don't, what it is now is just different, and that's okay. And it meant a lot to me when I did it. And gravel means a lot to me now that I'm doing it. I don't know what I'll be doing in 10 or 15 years from now.
We'll have to find another grassroots thing.
Rock climbing or something. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things. We'll catch you on the next episode.